G'day chaps, 'tis I, Clumpbutcher139. After my long and arduous completion journeys for all the Arkham games, I've become something of an expert on their various playable characters. Note, Clown Puncher still sucks at this game and is in no way an expert on these characters. So with my vast knowledge of these 16 playable characters, it only makes sense to rank them all. Yes, you heard me right, 16. I'm not just gonna rank every character on one specific appearance. I'm ranking every character in every single one of their appearances. As crazy as it might sound to say, Arkham Asylum Batman is quite different from Arkham Knight Batman. Blasphemy, I know, but it's true. I wouldn't be doing these characters justice if I didn't talk about all their appearances. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'll be looking at each character from an exclusively gameplay point of view. I won't take their stories, appearances, or DLC packs into account at all. Only how they play in both combat and Predator. And that's all the criteria. Though I will note that I won't be looking at Joker from Arkham Asylum, because, simply put, I haven't played as him. And I'm not gonna buy Return to Arkham just to play as a single character, so don't ask. Though as far as I'm concerned, he'd probably end up right next to Asylum Batman because they play practically the same, but do with that information as you will. With all that said, let's get to the ranking.
Okay, donut dunkers. You gonna bring Ivy to me, or am I gonna have to get her myself? Have it your way!
Number 16, Harley Quinn. Without a doubt, one of the worst playable characters ever conceived. Normally, in a situation like this, I'd be quoting the angry video game nerd.
What were they thinking?
But unfortunately, being blessed with innate knowledge of game design like I am, I know exactly what they were thinking. That said, it still baffles me that what they were thinking actually made it through as much testing as it did and made it to the final release, because it's just plain stupid. Let's start with combat and see where everything went wrong. Firstly, Harley never went to the Batman school of shutting the fuck up, because she is yapping the exact same lines of dialogue for every single second of combat. And good God, does it get annoying fast.
Are we done with your bad stand-up routine?
Not only is Harley's voice itself annoying, but the lines are really not funny after the first few times you hear them. It's fine during her story pack since it's so short, but during the challenge maps where you're constantly fighting and doing nothing but, it's just plain awful. Secondly, Harley's gimmick is not fun in any way, shape, or form. Maniac mode is a good idea and concept. Giving a character a unique meter and form of movement is great, and it helps them stand out when they don't have many gadgets or combo moves. The problem is that Maniac mode is fucking boring. You know what it does for you? It gives you 3 or 4 free takedowns. That's it. You know, the thing Batman gets for free with a few punches, the thing that Red Hood gets for free with a tap of the trigger, and the thing that literally every single character has because every single character in this series has a fucking combo takedown. Yeah, that's literally all you get with Maniac mode, and it is the most boring thing imaginable. Why couldn't they have copied what they did with Deathstroke and given her powered up combo moves, or at least done something more than just takedowns? The only interesting thing about this move is that it allows her to take down enemies in Predator much easier. Which, by the way, is literally the same thing as the Fear multi-takedown, so it's really not all that good in that regard either. Which is great, because her Predator is absolute dog shit. She is by far the worst character for Predator sections, and her gimmick there is just as stupid too. Loud takedowns are one of the dumbest decisions imaginable, because silent takedowns are the bread and butter of every character's Predator moveset. So the fact that Harley just doesn't have that instrumental move is stupid, especially when all it means is that you're performing a knockout smash on every enemy in the room with no variety. Being forced to use loud takedown methods is a fun idea that could have been implemented well if they gave Harley the means to escape or gave her some variety in takedown methods. But she has one. But the fact that Harley's best move is a small jump that literally every character can do, and can pretty much only do knockout smashes, means she easily has the worst Predator variety of the selection. And then there's all the little things that make Harley suck oh so much. Her beatdown is awful, as it's incredibly slow and is usually finished within 4 hits, so you don't get the high combo count that you're expecting from all the time you spend on it. And it's especially not worth it because of how slow her stun is, leaving you open to every attack on the battlefield if you miss. She can't grapple up shoots and is the only character that can't do so, meaning that once you're on the ground in certain AR challenges, you're stuck there for good. Her laughing gas, which is just a smoke bomb equivalent, does recharge infinitely and recharges fast, but it also dissipates far faster than regular smoke bombs, meaning you barely gain any benefit from it. It goes away so fast that you can't even get a takedown in the time that it lasts. It's that useless. And since she has no escape methods other than trying to hopelessly roll away, it feels even more worthless. Her tether balls are fine, they're literally just worst freeze blasts, but they at least don't suck. Except for the fact that their inclusion makes Harley the only character who can't take down charging enemies with a ranged gadget, which is just even more stupidity on top of stupidity. The only gadget actually worthwhile in her toolkit is the Jack-in-the-Box, which, by the way, is only useful in Predator encounters, because using the quickfire variant in combat is impossible since you have to turn your camera over to it and press down on the stick in the midst of combat to blow it up, which is just... why? It's so bad, man. In Predator, though, it's a lot better because you essentially just get 3 free takedowns with it as soon as you place it down. But that just calls into question how fucking stupid these guys are to keep falling for this. Like, really, guys? It's a Jack-in-the-Box. It's music. What is so impressive about it? Regardless, that is the only move Harley has with any kind of merit behind it. Everything else in her toolkit may as well be a baby under an anvil. Dr. Harleen Quinzel is far and away the worst playable character in this series. And at this point, it shouldn't come as any surprise as to why. But you know what isn't awful? The returning sponsor of this video, Underlucky Stars. Underlucky Stars creates star maps that show the night sky above a place and time that's special to you. Be it your birthday, an anniversary, or some other momentous occasion, you can see the star pattern of that exact night right in your home. It makes a great gift for those very same momentous occasions. All their maps are NASA certified, completely customizable, and they even ship globally, so you won't be missing out no matter where in the world you're watching from. So if you feel so inclined, use the link in the description to get 10% off your order and help support my channel. Thanks to Underlucky Stars for sponsoring, but now let's get back to some less than stellar characters. Number 15, Arkham Knight's Catwoman. It might be surprising seeing an Arkham Knight variation of a character lower than their city version, but with Catwoman, it is absolutely the case. Catwoman already sucked a lot in Arkham City, but they pulled absolutely no stops in trying to make her as unplayable as possible in Arkham Knight. The biggest factor in this is that there is only a single map that was actually designed with her in mind. Toy Soldiers. A map that also happens to be absolutely abhorrent for every other character and even still totally sucks with Catwoman. Selena's mechanics are designed around ceilings, which a grand total of 0 other maps accommodate for. So this character-defining gimmick, part of the reason she exists to begin with, is completely ignored in all but one map? At that rate, why even have the character here to begin with? You aren't playing as Catwoman in any of these maps, you're playing as an idiot going into a completely unprepared situation. And it just doesn't work. One of the biggest fuck-ups they made when porting her into this game is that her most noteworthy gadget, her caltrops, just flat out don't work. 90% of the time, enemies will notice your caltrops before stepping on them, and notice them before the timer has even started on the map. Meaning, they aren't aware of your presence, and yet they somehow know to look down and kick the caltrops out of the way, alerting them to your presence. The caltrops are supposed to be a trap that they won't see, and yet they always circumvent them. The only way to consistently knock a guy over with the caltrops is to throw 2 of them directly at their face and hope the game decides to be generous. which is literally doing the same thing as a Bolas would have done, but worse because these guys get up from caltrop hits after less than a second. In other words, making the caltrops completely useless and only necessary when required by challenges. It is the most mind-boggling design decision in the game that completely ruins this already really bad character. On the very, and I mean very, slim plus side, her combat hasn't changed since Arkham City, which is where I'll go more in depth about it. It's still not all that great, but it's not absolutely awful either. The big takeaway is that they took a character already known for her lackluster Predator moves and somehow made her even worse despite all the new mechanics they added to make Predator better. It's just a sad reality for the cat that only gets marginally better in her other appearance.
What the hell?
Sorry to disappoint you boys. It's just little old me.
Number 14, Arkham City Catwoman. The only thing better than a bad character is a bad character that can actually sometimes function. This is because at least some aspects of the maps were built with Catwoman's mechanics in mind in Arkham City. Now, just because parts of the game were built with her in mind doesn't make her actually good, not by a long shot. But it at least makes her playable, compared to Arkham Knight where she simply isn't. Arguably the best part is that her caltrops actually work in this game. They're still pretty finicky at times, but they're going to be working a whole hell of a lot more often than Knight's caltrops. Generally speaking, enemies won't notice them, meaning you can actually use them for their intended purpose and actually set down traps at the start of the encounter to be used later. Who could have thunk it? As far as combat goes, she isn't the worst character, but she's far from the best. Catwoman is in a weird middle ground where she's simultaneously faster and slower than every other character. Her regular attacks come out a lot faster, and her beatdown is by far the fastest in the game, with one of the fastest stuns to get it started on top of that. If she's close to her next attack target, it'll be almost instantaneous that they'll be hit. But if you're even a micropixel out of their range, she will have some of the slowest attacks in the whole series. She just takes all the time in the world to wind up and let her attacks go, putting in all the flourish imaginable to make it look as sexy as possible. It really doesn't work for me. She has by far the slowest combo takedowns as well, making sure you see every second of that kiss and whatever other dommy-mommy poses she does during them. This complete imbalance of different timings always throws me off when playing as her. One moment you'll be faster than Batman striking guys left and right, and the next it'll take you 3 minutes just to get to a ×15 combo. It always just feels wrong. One thing she does get right, however, are her other combo moves. The Whiplash and Whip Trip are both excellent moves that make her a much more competent character, even against enemies she would normally struggle a lot against. The Whip Trip in particular is honestly so busted. This thing can knock over shield enemies for free, no aerial attack required. It's great for giving you space to work and is far more reliable than any of her other moves. It's also consistently fast, meaning you can use it and always be back in combat within a fraction of a second. It's one of the few things Selina has going for her, so I'm gonna give her props for it. The rest of her kit though, not so much. While far from the worst character, because seriously the gap between her and Harley is massive, she is also far from a good character, and one that I never look forward to playing when I'm doing challenge maps. So much so that I always have her DLC uninstalled unless I need to record a special challenge for it. Like this one, which I'm really only just realizing as I'm recording this audio. Yay.
Jingle bells! Batman smells! No.
Number 13, Arkham Origins Batman. It might also be surprising seeing a Batman this low on the list, but one of them had to take the fall, and it might as well be the game where Batman is by far the most boring. That's not to say this Batman isn't an effective fighter, far from it. In fact, he's one of the best combatants on this list. So why is he so low then? He's just not fun. This is Arkham City Batman without any of what made that system difficult to deal with. If there's something difficult ahead of you, you know what you do? turn on the shock gloves or pull out the remote claw. These two gadgets will carry you through every single encounter in the game, and it's just fucking boring. There is absolutely nothing fun about Arkham Origins encounters when you have these crutches at your disposal at literally all times. The shock gloves are so unabashedly broken that they can break through every single enemy's defense, including shields and stun sticks, and reduce them to dust. And while this may be fun for the first 5 times that you do it, afterwards you realize that you just removed a section of gameplay from this game that you will now never get back. Okay, then simple solution, just don't use these gadgets, right? Well, then you have the most bare bones and boring version of Batman in the whole series. It's literally just Arkham City Batman with less, or in some cases, worse, tools. The Disruptor is the worst it's been in the whole series. Not only does it take time to activate, but it can miss through no fault of your own and completely waste your shots. At least when you miss with Arkham Knight's Disruptor, the only consequence is a small recoil cooldown period before you can shoot again. If you miss in this game, your shot is just gone, reduced to atoms. It's actually one of the stupidest decisions they could have made with this thing. And that's not even mentioning the worst gadget in the entire series, with a grand total of 2 niches used only in the main story, the concussion detonator. On top of being a terrible gadget in its own right, it's also trying to replace one of the best gadgets in the game, the wreck gun. So just imagine this scenario where you're playing Arkham Origins and instinctively use the quickfire wreck in combat because it's a really reliable tool that can do you a lot of good. Then when you do, you throw out this piece of crap that makes the nearby enemies start wildly swinging and eventually hit you while you were doing something else. It is actually one of the worst things they've made in all of these games. And all of that without covering the most overpowered tool they gave Batman in this game: double combos. If you reach a high enough combo, which is not difficult at all by the way, especially when you get the shock gloves, you can use 2 free flow combo moves in a row instead of just 1. That means you can use the special combo Batarang to knock multiple enemies down at once, then immediately use the multi-ground takedown to delete a ton of enemies in a nanosecond. It is so unabashedly broken that I can't believe it made it through testing. And it's especially egregious on New Game Plus and I Am the Night, as it utterly destroys bosses like nobody's business. All these broken moves would be fun if they were at all balanced out by the rest of the game's difficulty. The only piece of attempted balance is that the shock gloves need to be powered up and aren't instantly usable in combat. But even then, it's not hard to charge them, as they'll be ready to go after just a few beatdowns. In the end, Arkham Origins Batman is still Batman, so he's still a great character to play as. But when he's going against all these other, in every single way superior Batmen, he's by far the lowest on the totem pole.
Sorry boss, we're not getting you out of there anytime soon.
Why the bloody hell not?
'Cause we just got our asses kicked.
Number 12 and number 11, Nightwing. I'm just combining these two together because my problems with each version kinda complement each other, and I can't express the things I like about one without showing off how they failed with another. Nightwing is just a baffling character to me. When I first tried him out in Arkham City's challenge maps, I was blown away by all the incredibly stupid decisions they made while designing him. But at the same time, I was amazed by all the cool gimmicks they were able to implement that make him actually kind of fun. Nightwing has a really stupid double hit system on a lot of his attacks. So when you're in the midst of free flow building up your combo, sometimes Nightwing will just randomly hit an enemy twice and break up your rhythm. See, when I'm playing these games, I go for constant critical strikes, which means I need to be on my game when timing my next hit against an enemy. To do this, I'll usually ignore the attack my character is doing and instead focus on the sounds. As soon as I hear my fist collide with the enemy's face, I know it's time to attack again and I'll be guaranteed a critical strike. Try it out for yourself if you struggle with landing critical hits. I bet it'll make the concept click for you instantly. The problem is, Nightwing's double hits completely throw my system out the window. Now, if you strike when you hear a hit, you may throw out your next attack, or you might have been in the middle of a double hit and now your attack never goes through and you drop your combo. And it's completely random when they occur, so you can't prepare for them ahead of time and adapt. You need to adapt on the fly to something completely out of your control. This is especially infuriating if the double hit occurs on a slow attack. So now you're slowed for longer than normal and probably drop your combo through no fault of your own. Even on moves that take Batman longer to perform, none of them have a stupid double hit that will throw off your rhythm. Because when the hit lands, you know you can attack again. This is not the case with Nightwing double hits, where your input will be dropped if you try to attack before the second hit lands. It's just infuriating and completely breaks the flow of combat, which is otherwise pretty good. Nightwing has some pretty cool and fun free flow moves. The spread shock is great for getting enemies off of you and dealing with annoying weapons, and the weapon throw is great for knocking down a ton of enemies, including shield and armored guys. It gives Nightwing a really powerful tool for getting rid of those enemies where he would otherwise struggle. That's the case for combat in both games. Nightwing isn't great in a lot of situations, but he also has a lot of cool tools that help him where he struggles. His gadgets are also solid all around, and the quickfires are great in most situations. Though the electric blast is still pretty weird for me. I'm still not sure why it got a dedicated quickfire slot when it literally does nothing but make a few guys stumble back. It doesn't even add to your combo, so like, why would you ever use this? That said, where he significantly differs between games is in Predator. In Arkham City, he has one of the worst gimmicks in the entire series, his detective mode. Just look at how bad this looks. I was actually stun-locked for a good 3 minutes when I first saw it. And the worst part is that they almost had a cool idea on their hands. See this absolutely useless radar in the corner? This radar only works when you're on the same vertical level as whoever you're looking for, and even then doesn't matter because you can just, see enemies through walls because detective mode. Well, they could have done something cool with it that would balance out the otherwise really bad detective mode. Imagine if they let you use the radar even while a jammer was active. That would not only give it a niche that would come in serious handy in a majority of challenge maps, because seriously, a lot of them in Arkham City have jammers, but help Nightwing stand out and give him a useful tool at the same time. It would have been really cool because you still can't see where enemies are, but you can get an idea off the radar and start working around it. But they didn't do that gimmick, and instead gave Nightwing the absolute worst enhanced vision in the whole series. And yet he also does shockingly well in Arkham City Predator despite this because he has a lot of really cool and useful tools. Chief among them being the wrist darts. Holy crap, I love these things. They have absolutely terrible aiming controls, but that was a very necessary piece of balance to ensure they weren't even more OP than they already are. Because when you get a headshot with these things, it is an instant knockout. No matter if the enemy has armor or not. This move is amazing and seriously helps out Nightwing where he would otherwise struggle. Annoying enemy trying to snipe you from the other side of the map? Wrist dart. Armored guy that needs to be taken out first as part of the challenge? Wrist dart. All the other enemies are down but you're on low health and don't want to risk running down there? Wrist dart. It's such a good gadget that you will use to its fullest potential in every single Predator map. And that's without talking about his other fun tools. The Disruptor, the Line Launcher, and the Electrical Blast are all super useful and help him stand out from Robin especially. The Disruptor is, well, the Disruptor. It's gonna go underutilized, but is absolutely incredible because you can detonate mines or disable enemies' guns whenever you want. The Line Launcher gives him another movement option, which is great since he doesn't have a cape to better move around the maps, and the Electrical Blast gives him a great tool for knocking multiple enemies down at once and is overall just fun to use if you have the right setup. So tell me, dear viewer, why the hell did they remove every single one of those tools when bringing him to Arkham Knight? Seriously, everything that made him remotely playable in Arkham City is just removed in Arkham Knight. And what do they give him in return? The Rec Gun and the Voice Synth. That's it. Two gadgets that don't have any sort of synergy with one another, or synergy with this character. Don't get me wrong, they're good gadgets, but they do not complement Nightwing's toolkit at all. The Voice Synth is practically useless on Nightwing because he doesn't have anything to disrupt the environment. He has no remote hacking device or disruptor to capitalize on the enemy's idiocy, and instead has to rely on regular old takedowns. They could have at least given him the disruptor to give him a bit more balance, especially since he was the one to give it to Bruce in the main game, so why wouldn't he be the one to get it? And, he also had the disruptor in Arkham City, and why remove the line launcher as well on one of your most movement-challenged characters to give him a bit of extra breathing room? It would have given another takedown and helped him move around the environments to gain better vantage points. Why would you not give it back to him? And why the hell did you remove the single best gadget in the entire game, the wrist darts? These things literally made him playable, so in what world do you think it was a good idea to remove them? All this to say, Nightwing is a huge downgrade from an already pretty bad character in Arkham Knight. But the reason that he isn't significantly lower on this list is because he makes up a tiny bit with combat. He gains some very useful tools that most other characters don't in free-flow power gadgets. He uses the special combo Wreck Gun, but more importantly, the special combo Bat Claw. While it would make a lot more sense for him and be a lot better of a character if he had the Zip Kick, the Bat Claw lets him use the special combo Bat Claw move, which gives him a free takedown on even brute enemies, which is very useful considering how much Nightwing otherwise struggles with them. Those small additions aren't enough to make for the very mediocre character that he is though, so that's why he's near the bottom half of the list.
Ready for the next round?
Always.
What?
I'll never let you win. Never.
Number 10, Arkham Asylum Batman. The very first outing of Batman we got to experience is our gateway into the actual good characters on the list, because Arkham Asylum Batman is exactly that. Good. It is the most basic moveset you can get amongst these games, but unlike the incredibly mediocre Harley and Catwoman, Batman is actually capable. He flows like he does in all the later games, but is obviously a lot weaker because it's Asylum, and he doesn't have that much he can do. But the fact of the matter is that he does still have a pretty diverse moveset. While some of it does require a lot of upgrades, the fact that he's still pretty powerful despite the weakness of Asylum is a testament to how incredible Rocksteady did with this system. You got punches, counters, evades, a few combo moves, and only 2 quickfire gadgets in combat. And that's really all you need. It helps that there are only 2 enemy types in Asylum, so the limitation doesn't hurt you at all. The combo moves are simple and effective. The takedown is as reliable as always, and the throw is one of the most ineffective yet stupidly fun moves in the series, and I'm still mad that they removed it in Arkham City. And Predator is just as limited but powerful in this game. You will die in half a second to gunfire, no matter the enemy, but at the same time, you have the Ultra Bat Claw. This is straight up the most powerful gadget in the series, and it's amazing that it got through testing. But you have it. And the rest of his tools are nothing to snuff at either. Batarangs are arguably at their most powerful in Arkham Asylum Predator, because of one small mechanic that was thankfully changed in later games. Ground takedowns are silent. This means that you can use Batarangs to knock enemies down, and use a ground takedown to get essentially the exact same outcome as a silent takedown, but with half the risk and in half the time. This simple fact makes the game a lot easier when you know how to use the gadgets, because as soon as you get the twin and triple Batarang upgrades, you'll be tearing through Predator sections like nobody's business. And that kinda applies to Asylum Batman as a whole. He struggles a lot in the early game because of how few tools he has, but by the end game and when you're playing through challenge maps, when you still don't technically have that many tools, you are so much more powerful. It's all about learning how to most effectively use the few tools that you have to the best of your abilities. As soon as you figure that out, you'll be an absolute menace, even in the seemingly limited nature of Arkham Asylum. All that said, he should be higher, no? Well, like I said, it's still Arkham Asylum. You don't have all the crazy tools of later games that made Batman so much fun in them. Which we'll eventually get to, but we've got a lot of other characters to cover.
You have done well, novice, but you still have much to learn. For the time being, find a rag and clean the floors.
Number 9, Bruce Wayne. It's kinda crazy that Bruce Wayne is a better combatant than Batman in Arkham Origins, but In the end, Bruce is very similar to his suit itself, but with a lot more unique tools that make him just a whole hell of a lot more fun. He's kind of a combination of Catwoman and Robin, and was actually able to pull the Catwoman parts off way better than Selina. He has the speed and the power to back it up. Bruce's attacks are very fast, but unlike Catwoman, he almost never has these slow attacks in between everything that mess up his flow. In fact, there's one special bonus that Bruce gets that makes him flow even better than all the other characters in Arkham Origins. He's allowed to counter martial artists early. This means that your flow, which is constantly interrupted by martial artists normally, won't be interrupted nearly as bad when playing as Bruce. As soon as you get into a counter situation with one of them, just press the counter button and you'll get rid of them. No need to wait for the indicator to come up like with all the others. This makes him far and away the best for dealing with those, and at the same time ruins my muscle memory when I go back to the other characters and have to deal with them normally. Bruce is also unique in that he does technically have multiple combo moves, but in reality he only has 2. It's weird, let me explain. At base he only has the combo takedown and the combo shuriken swarm. These are perfectly fine combo moves that get the job done, but where Bruce really excels is in his extra moves. If you have free flow focus and use the shuriken swarm, it'll do a ton more damage, and more importantly, drop caltrops as well without going into your supply to do so. This means that if you can keep getting your combo up, you can throw endless caltrops onto the battlefield that your enemies will have to keep stumbling over. It's a fantastic move that allows you to keep the battle a lot more spread out than normal and lets you get your bearings. There's one more combo move, but we'll get to that in a second. First, let's talk gadgets. One thing I really don't like about Bruce is that his main projectile, the shurikens, are awful in Predator sections. Here's the problem. They always need to hit 2 targets. Now that wouldn't be a problem if that's your goal, because, hitting 2 targets is always great. But the issue is when you're required to only hit one thing on the map. For example, when you're trying to hit a fire extinguisher to take down an enemy in the smoke, but the shuriken targets onto them as well, knocking them over so they don't get up in time to be taken down. It's very annoying, and if they allowed you to throw only one, this gadget would be a lot better. On the other hand, Bruce has a fantastic gadget in the form of the zip kick. I'll go over that more when I talk about Robin though. He's also got the caltrops, but thankfully we're still in a time period where they work more often than fail, so I won't be criticizing them like with Night Catwoman. And then he has one of the weirdest gadgets in the whole series that I still don't know if I'm using right, the Kujiki bomb. This thing is just weird, man. In combat, it's fantastic if you can get it to work. When you use it, you're prompted to quickly press Y to use the shuriken ground takedown. Meaning yes, even Bruce Wayne has a multi-ground takedown. However, unlike the other characters that do, Bruce is limited to 3 uses through the Kujiki bombs. On top of that, it's really finicky to get working. Half the time I'll get ready to do it and then the attack just won't come out, or I'll do it just a second too late and all the enemies will have gotten up. And in Predator, I think it's supposed to be used as a pseudo smoke bomb where you can use it to take an enemy down after they've seen you, but again, I'm not sure because this thing's mechanics are explained absolutely nowhere. That aside, it's a really cool gadget when you do actually get it working, so I'm gonna give it props. And that about covers Bruce. He's a really fun character with a lot of cool mechanics that make him surprisingly work. There's no doubt a couple of problems, but he's overall a great character that's a lot of fun to play. If you can somehow get your hands on the Initiation DLC if you haven't already, I highly recommend doing so. Not only for the much better Shiva fight, but also for just an overall fun new character to mess around with.
Find Batman and get the hell out of there, okay?
Don't worry, Barb. It's me, remember?
You sound just like him.
Number 8 and 7, Robin. Much like Nightwing, these two are nearly indistinguishable from one another. However, unlike Nightwing, Tim is actually good at his job. Robin is a character that just works. He plays very familiarly, yet also sets himself apart from Batman just enough to be his own unique and interesting character. His most noteworthy changes are in his gadgets, which are all incredible additions. The Snap Flash is an amazing tool in both combat and Predator. In Predator, it's literally an instant knockdown for 3 enemies if you play your cards right, and if you can combine it with explosive gel in just the right places, you can get 6 free KOs before the encounter actually starts in Arkham Knight. And it's great in combat too, acting as a mobile explosive gel that can knock down multiple enemies at once and even stun titans in Arkham City. The only downside is their limited use, but honestly, if these things could be used infinitely, Robin would be absolutely busted. The bullet shield is another great tool that you probably won't use all too much, but when you do, it's just fun. In combat, it's essentially acting like a regular attack, but with the added bonus of not dealing damage, so you can knock enemies down for a free ground takedown. And in Predator, it can be used to knock enemies off of ledges, which is very useful since Robin is one of the only characters to not have a back claw, instead getting the incredibly fun zip kick. This thing is practically useless in Predator, but in combat it is one of the most fun gadgets in the whole game, letting you zip, as the name would imply, around the battlefield like a madman, constantly attacking enemies as you do or pulling them in close for a clothesline attack, both of which are fantastic options because of how much damage they do and how fast they are. And that's all without mentioning Robin's special combo moves, which are still some of the most fun in the game. He brings back the Thug Toss from Arkham Asylum, albeit doing so with much worse aim than Batman. But when you get it to work, it works. And he's also got the Staff Spin, which is essentially just a more broken version of the Batstorm and Whip Trip combined. It'll knock down every enemy around him and damage them at the same time, which is just way too busted for a single move to do with this much range. Everything Robin has comes together to create, in my opinion, the most fun character of the bunch. While I do consider some of them to be better overall characters, as you can see with him only being at the halfway point of the list, I always just have the most fun when I'm playing as Robin, which I think is a pretty noteworthy accomplishment.
Barb, you okay?
Fine.
What was that?
Number 6. Batgirl.
There is no decision to make, Batman. I am ready now.
And number 5. Azrael. Our 2 Batman clones are taking the next spots on the list, and I know you're thinking they should be alongside Arkham Knight Batman, but you would think wrong. Batgirl and Azrael actually have some factors that make them unique compared to one another and Batman. Since Batgirl is technically lower, let's talk about her first. Barbara's big gimmick is that she actually plays similarly to City and Origins Batman in Predator. She doesn't have access to the Fear multi-takedown, and can't do silent takedowns from hiding spots. She actually brought back Great and Ledge takedowns, which I'm still wondering why they took away, but I digress. She's also supposed to be dependent on her remote hacking device, but unfortunately that's kind of exclusive to her story pack and wasn't transferred over to regular challenge maps. Still, she does get good use out of it, since it is one of the best gadgets in the series, so I can't complain all too much about it. But those factors ironically make her the weaker of the 2 clones, and weakness is not welcome in these parts. Azrael, on the other hand, plays a lot more like Night Batman. That is to say, broken. He has practically all of his moves and gadgets, only missing out on, the broken ones, being the remote hacking device and voice synth. The big thing is that he gets the Fear multi-takedown, which I'll talk about when we actually cover Batman. Aside from that, yeah, he's basically Batman. He's really powerful, and there's not much to complain about with him. Aside from the fact that he has no reason for being allowed to glide and is seriously lacking in unique animations. Both are practically identical in combat, with the only differences being purely cosmetic. The one thing I find interesting is that Batgirl will never fight brutes while Azrael will. This generally makes her combat maps a whole hell of a lot easier, but also kinda boring because it seriously brings down the enemy variety. That's actually the case with all the female characters, ironically. None of them are allowed to fight brutes in Night, and I think it just has to do with the team not wanting to make unique animations for them. Who knows. Either way, both of these characters are essentially just slightly nerfed versions of Arkham Knight Batman. They're both still really good, but those nerfs definitely stand out compared to the monster that is Arkham Knight Batman.
It appears the game is over before it even begins.
I'm not playing games.
Number 4. Deathstroke. Coming in just shy of the bronze medal is one of the most unique characters in the whole saga. Mr. Slade Wilson impressed all of us with his incredible boss fight in Arkham Origins. But little did we know we would actually be able to surprise us again by being a shockingly great playable character. The best way to describe Deathstroke is a slower but stronger Robin. I mean, hell, they reused a lot of Tim's animations for Slade, but that's besides the point. He doesn't have all the crazy acrobatic feats Tim is able to pull off, but instead compensates with really brutal blows. Deathstroke just feels heavy, but ironically never feels like he's moving too slow because of it. Slade is the tank, and his unique gimmicks amongst the rest of these characters show that wonderfully. His biggest, but also ironically weakest gimmick is that he has passive health regeneration. Whenever he takes damage, he'll slowly heal back up to full over time, which honestly isn't too important in a majority of challenge maps, but is still a nice attention to detail that helps set Slade apart from every other character in the series. Similarly, in Predator maps, he can instantly rip off grates to crawl inside them without alerting anyone. Despite the fact that he violently rips them off like Batman does, it's for some reason considered silent, allowing you to get in instantly while remaining unnoticed, which are major plus sides that sliding into vents or ripping them off with other characters just don't allow. Although this strength does work against him in some cases, as he is very susceptible to accidentally breaking weak ceilings if he lands on them wrong, which is a big problem on a lot of maps that require challenges on weak ceilings. Slade also has his own version of detective mode known as Enhanced Vision, which is basically the same thing just with a green tint rather than blue. But it also has an added bonus of outlining explosives on the map. This reveals the locations of your own explosive packs as well as enemy mines, showing you where they are, even through walls, and showing their detonation radius. This allows you to play around them a lot better than other characters, which is a massive plus. However, by far Slade's best gimmick is how he handles free flow moves. Slade is the only character other than Batman to have a free flow move available in every slot. And boy do they take advantage of that fact. His free flow moves are essentially the same as Batman's. He's got a combo takedown, a multi-ground takedown, disarm destroy, and the staff slam is literally just the bat swarm. However, what makes these moves unique is how they work in tandem with free flow focus. How Batman at least works in Arkham Origins is free flow focus gives him the ability to use combo gadgets as well as use 2 combo moves back to back. This is obviously really broken, as we just mentioned, and just giving the system to Slade would have been really boring or not even worked because he doesn't have gadgets that would make sense to have special combo moves for. So what they ultimately did with Deathstroke was honestly genius. If you build up to free flow focus and then use a special combo move, it will gain special properties that only Deathstroke has. The staff slam will now be powerful enough to stumble armored enemies, ninjas, and martial artists, which would normally block or dodge the hit and keep attacking you. The multi-ground will now stumble nearby enemies while also knocking down everyone on the ground, giving you some space to work with. The combo takedown will now have 2 uses instead of 1, which is admittedly just the same as Batman, but whatever. And disarm destroy is just flat out broken, because it just straight knocks out the enemy while also destroying their weapon. Whoever let this get through testing is a freaking madman and needs to be stopped immediately. But at the same time, it makes Deathstroke so freaking unique and cool. This one gimmick helped set Slade apart from everyone else in the entire roster, and gave a reason for free flow focus to exist that it just didn't have before. Combine that with his unique backclaw slam, which is just so much fun for no reason, and his other fun gadgets, except that his concussion detonators, those things can go to hell, and you've got yourself an incredible addition to the roster.
Anywhere you want, I'll go anywhere.
How about you go to hell?
Number 3, Red Hood. By far the best non-Batman character in this franchise is Red Hood, and it's not even close. The crazy thing is that by all accounts, he really shouldn't work. He's got the same problem as Harley, where he only has 3 gadgets and a single combo move to work with. But somehow, it just works with Jason, and I think it comes down to how he's balanced. Arkham combat as a whole is all about risk-reward. Do you go for an extra hit in your beatdown while a knife wielder is about to hit you? Do you go for the ground takedown while enemies are still up? Do you expend your combo on this move rather than another? It's all about weighing your options in the moment and deciding whether or not you go for it. Red Hood takes this mentality to the extreme. His dual pistols are an insta-kill for every single enemy on the field, but they leave you more vulnerable than a ground takedown. So while you're playing, you can take out any enemy you like at a moment's notice, just tap the trigger. But then you run the risk of everyone else running up and beating the crap out of you while you do it. On top of that, it does not give a lot of points. So while you do take an enemy out of the equation, you also get very little gain for doing so, and need to weigh if taking this guy out to thin the numbers will be worth losing out on potential points. This is also the case in Predator sections. Or at least would be if they actually used the gimmick they created in a single one of the other challenge maps. See, in the Red Hood story pack, they created a special kind of armored enemy specifically for Red Hood, so that you couldn't go all gung-ho and shoot everyone without consequences. These armored guys can't be taken out with your guns, and need to be taken down up close and personal. That's a great gimmick that would have made Predator maps actually require thought to complete. But then they kinda just forgot to import these guys into his maps, and instead left everyone as just a regular enemy that you can shoot down without consequence. Yeah, in that regard, Red Hood is a total failure of game design, because he can circumvent the game's whole challenge by just shooting everyone. Wanna know what Batman with a gun would look like? Here's a hint, it's really fucking boring. But for the sake of giving Jason a fair shot, let's assume the devs weren't on crack when they made his challenge maps and pretend some of these guys are armored. Okay. How these levels now play out is actually quite different from most of the other characters. Jason has a lot of unique gimmicks that help him stand out from the rest, chief among them being his fast, silent takedowns. Since he doesn't care if these guys live or die, he's perfectly content with just snapping their necks and putting them out of their misery quickly, which means he essentially gets free knockout smashes on every takedown regardless of them being silent or not. But it once again ties into risk and reward. Do you get the cheeky kill by picking this guy off with your guns and risk getting surrounded by everyone in the whole damn facility? Or do you take it quiet and use Jason's more stealthy means of getting kills? Either way results in a pretty fun puzzle for you to figure out that isn't hampered by limited movement. True, Jason doesn't have a glide, which hurts him a lot in some sections, but he feels less hampered by it than Nightwing since he has an easy means of escape. While he doesn't have smoke bombs, like every character that isn't Batman for some reason, he does have the flashbangs, which will always disorient small groups of enemies, preventing them from shooting you. Oh, and speaking of flashbang, need I mention that it gives way to one of the coolest pieces of combat tech for any character in the series? When you use the flashbang in combat, it seems like a pretty underwhelming gadget. Oh, great, it just stuns some guys, big whoop-de-doo. Pretty underwhelming for an entire gadget slot, right? Well, how about I show you what this can lead into? To make up for the lack of combo moves, Red Hood has a ranged beatdown. When you hit someone with the flashbang, they're considered stunned, which means if they're close by, Jason will initiate a beatdown as though you pressed B. However, if they're stunned and you're far away, he'll begin shooting them in a rhythm akin to a beatdown, meaning you start dealing damage on an enemy across the map while racking up points and still getting attacked by everyone else. And this shoot down, as I'm gonna call it, is no joke, because you can even use it on stun stick enemies. That's right, one of the biggest counters for every character is now the subject of a beatdown where the fighter is in no danger whatsoever. This move is just so much fun to play around with, it's just so freaking cool. I will admit that it's more than a little finicky at times and is a little difficult to set up, but once you get into that rhythm with it, oh, it's so satisfying. And that's really the best word to describe Red Hood. Satisfying. Every move in his arsenal is just so much fun to make use of, and unlike a lot of other characters, none of his tools ever feel useless. Everything has its purpose and they all work together so well.
Isn't this a school night?
Number 2, Arkham City Batman. I won't lie to y'all, I was heavily considering putting this guy in the top spot over Arkham Knight. And I swear it isn't just city bias. You've seen how mean I've been to it the rest of this list. But I genuinely think Arkham City Batman is just as good as Arkham Knight. And it all comes down to power. Arkham Knight Batman, as we'll soon discuss, is one of the most overpowered playable characters in gaming. While Arkham City Batman is, not that. And that's what I like about him so much. Arkham City feels like you need to fight a lot harder to get through these combat encounters, since you're doing so with a severely underpowered Batman. But despite that, you still have so many fun tools at your disposal. This game was the introduction of all the fun special combo moves. The Bat Swarm, Disarm Destroy, and of course the most overpowered move in the whole series, the multi-ground takedown. This Batman introduced more quickfire gadgets than just the Batarang. You've now got 5 gadgets that you can use in combat, and all of them are useful in some way. But more often than not, you'll be using the Wreck Gun to knock over armored enemies, and the Batarangs to knock over everyone else. And that's not even mentioning all the small things they added in this game that you don't even think about, but always add so much to every encounter. You've got dive bombs, making gliding more versatile, sliding, allowing you to get into vents more quickly, the beatdown, allowing you to focus damage on a single target, and so much more. Arkham City Predator is this perfect blend of the power you feel in Arkham Knight and the helplessness you feel in Arkham Asylum. Enemies have been seriously beefed up in this game, making them some of the most powerful foes that you'll face. But at the same time, you've gotten so many new toys to play with in this game that it all balances out. For every enemy you pull off a ledge with the Batclaw, you've got a sniper on the other end of the map that'll take you down almost instantly with a few pot shots. For every Sonic Batarang KO you're able to sneak in, you'll have an extra armored enemy waiting on the other side of the map who can't be silently taken down. For every mine disrupted, there's another mine layer that'll just resupply the floor with your worst enemies. It all balances out to create a truly chaotic experience, but one that always feels fair and manageable. And more importantly, one where you will always use all of your tools. Because above all else, Arkham City Batman has far and away the best and hardest Predator map challenges in the series. The extreme versions of these maps are genuinely ridiculous with some of the challenges they require of you, especially with how some of these rooms are set up. These rooms will test your knowledge of this game and all the tools that you have, ensuring that none of them will go unused by the end of your adventure. And that kinda applies to combat as well. With how many points you need to accumulate in combat maps, you'll be forced to use all the tools you have at some point or another. And if you don't, you can just kiss that variation bonus bye-bye. Arkham City Batman is the perfect balance of everything. You're strong but weak, intimidating but predictable, amazing but not overpowered. And if this was a favorites list rather than a flat-out best list, he would probably be taking the top spot. He is my favorite out of these playable characters. I will gladly go back and play through City Batman's challenge maps any day of the week, because they're the perfect level of difficulty. But that said, we all know from an objective point of view that one of these characters is far better than all the others. Number 1. Arkham Knight Batman. Come on, if you didn't think Arkham Knight Batman was one of the best playable characters in gaming history, you're clearly smoking something that I do not want to indulge in. Arkham Knight Batman is the epitome of an unstoppable force meeting a difficult but still movable object. Batman is so ridiculously powerful in Arkham Knight, and on top of that has so many incredible and fun tools for you to mess around with. Every single shortcoming of the other characters is casually laughed off by Batman. When it comes to Arkham Knight challenge maps, every other character will struggle with something because they just aren't built for Arkham Knight's new systems. If Batman needed to do any challenge the other characters had, it'd be a complete cakewalk because of just how many incredible tools he has. Unfortunately, that is where my problem with this character comes into play, and why I almost ranked Arkham City higher. You just have way too much. There are so many little things that Batman has, so many combat and predator tools, that it's just overwhelming. You're swarmed with choice after choice of how to handle a situation that in the end, you just go for old reliable. You could use the super stun, aerial juggle, or pick weapons off the floor to give yourself an advantage, or just rhythmically press the punch button because critical strikes now take enemies down in just 2 hits. And you can attack people on the floor for some reason, building you up to a times 200 combo in just 2 minutes. You could use the disruptor, voice synthesizer, and remote hacking device to mess with your enemies and lead them around the arena, or you could just use the insanely buffed silent takedown that can be used from literally every vantage point and is so broken it can clear an entire room on its own, on top of the fear multi takedown, which gives you 5 takedowns completely for free as long as the enemies are closer together. That's why Arkham City almost took the top spot. Arkham Knight just has too many options that you'll end up losing track of them unless a challenge is specifically asking for it. Genuinely, when I was playing through Knight's challenge maps, there would be times that I would learn about a new move or mechanic as I was doing it, because there are just so many things you can do in this game. It's hard to keep track of everything, especially when most of them are tied to upgrades that you just kinda get without thinking. More often than not, I buy the upgrades I know will be useful in the moment, and then just wait until I have a ton of upgrade points and splurge on everything all at once at the end because I don't really care. So I just have a bunch of stuff that I don't even know exists until I'm told about it in a challenge map. With all that said though, the fact that they were able to create a character like this, that has absolutely massive moveset in just one game from almost 10 years ago, that simultaneously feels completely overpowered and completely balanced in a game designed like this, is a testament to their capabilities. Arkham Knight Batman is truly something to marvel at. The only reason they were able to balance a character as blatantly overpowered as this is by making enemies a lot smarter to your tactics. If they weren't able to adapt to you, like they failed to do in all 3 previous games, this game would just be unfun. But, you know, since they did, we have one of the most fun predator systems in any game ever. You can go through an entire room without anyone knowing you were even there, or go ham and destroy everyone in 30 seconds with the most broken moves ever. It's really up to you, as both are completely valid and fun options. There's honestly so much that I could talk about with Arkham Knight Batman, but if I did, this video would go on for at least another 20 minutes and my throat is really hurting. If you want to see all the crap Batman can pull out of his ass in this game, just play some challenge maps for yourself. I'm sure you'll learn a good deal about the game even 10 years later, because seriously, there is so much to learn about this game. And with that, we reach the end of the list, chaps. Thanks for watching. If you think I was too harsh on your favorite playable character, tell me why I'm wrong in the comments. I promise I will ignore all of your points because I'm the only one whose opinion matters here. With that in mind, do all the YouTube stuff, because I'm still waiting for Man and Jonkler to be playable characters. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later, chaps.